Hey everyone, we are on page 180 and we're going to talk about syncopation, one of my favorite things in music. It's a rhythmic device, and very simply, the easiest definition for syncopation is where you have an accent on a weak beat. So for example, if you're in 4/4, normally we want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and big accent on 1. Downbeat is always the biggest accent, and then in 4/4 we have a secondary accent on beat 3. So if we're in 4/4, there's a bunch of ways you can show syncopation in a score if you're composing. The easiest one, one of the easiest ones, is to just put the sign for an accent on the weak beat. So if you look at number 1, let's just clap it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It kind of goes against the natural inclination of feeling beat 1 as the heavy beat. A slightly sneakier way of achieving a syncopation is to put a long note value on a weak beat. So what happens is when you put a long note value, it'll automatically feel a little bit more important because of the length of it. Try number 2. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Even if I do that really quietly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, you can hear how a long note value, even in a triple piano dynamic marking, will still carry more weight than the downbeat. Another slightly sneaky way is number 3, is just putting a tie over a bar line. So that takes away the strong downbeat by making it tied over instead of striking. There's no articulation on it. Let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4, tie. 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, tie. 2, 3, 4. So it gives a little extra oomph to the 2 when it comes in because it is articulated. And then number 4 is actually a very simple way, not at all sneaky. We're just putting rests on the strong beats. So let's try that. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are 4 different ways that you can achieve a syncopation, 4 basic ways. So take a look at page 181 on the Haydn Gypsy Dance and look it over and see if you can find where the syncopation is and what type of syncopation Haydn is using. Haydn is a wonderful composer, one of my favorite composers, because he is very rhythmic. He always gave a lot of attention and detail to interesting rhythms, especially in his time period. Okay, so if your answer is at the double bar there on the second half of the piece, you see an 8th note, 1 and 2, and then again here, 1 and 2. So he is using the short note value on the strong beat and a longer note value. So that would be like number 2 on the previous page. Short, long. Throws the natural accent onto a weak beat. If you want to hear with both hands there, it's... So you can hear it gives it a nice forward motion, especially this form of it, having a long note on a weak beat, gives a really nice forward motion. Okay, so let's take a look at this piece. Is it F major or D minor? The part I just played was F major, so it modulates to F in the 3rd line, but we start out in D minor. So I'd like to look at the left hand first. It's just root position, D minor. Now come up to 2nd inversion, D minor, A major, and then tie the bass so that you're going to play the D and then the C sharp. And then we repeat. And now A7 in root position without the C sharp. And then, so fingering 5, 2, 1, 3, 1. You'll just have to slide your thumb down. Notice how sneaky, to get that legato effect, I let go of the thumb, but I hang on to these notes. So in slow motion, you're doing that. And when it's faster, no one will really notice it. But what we don't want to do is just move all the fingers at the exact same time. Then you'll chop up that phrase. So these are some of the more advanced techniques now that you're going to be required to do. Let's take right hand in the A section. It's D minor 5-finger pattern. There's a grace note, or actually it's an appoggiatura. In this period, they were called appoggiaturas in measure 4. So the G is going to be ironed out into just 4 16th notes, G, F, and the G goes with the left hand. So that's the only tricky thing to watch out for notation-wise. And then there's some fingering written in, so be sure to follow the fingering in measure 7 and 8. Let's try right hand. I'll play the left so you can hear it. 1 E and a 2, D minor. Okay, now move up to a 2, 3 over 2. So that's the trickiest part, measure 7 and 8, which is tricky many times towards the cadence. Things get hectic. Cross a 3 and then a 2. So and notice the left hand is only legato in measure 4 and measure 8. Okay, moving on. Left hand is, now we have a direct modulation to F major. So relative major, again staccato, C7, just C in first inversion, the triad, and F major. And then direct modulation, he's not giving you any pivot chords, just direct modulations. And then A7, and here's the sneaky, move your thumb while you hold the other notes. Okay, so the third line is the only line that's different if you're marking your form. Even the last line, every note is identical to the second line of the piece, so important to notice that. Right hand in measure 9. The syncopation is here, so it's an octave, so get your octave prepared, and B flat prepared with your 4th finger if you can reach that. 1, and here we go. B flat, and then we just come back like before. So let's try that line. I'll put the hands together and you do that when you feel ready. 1 and 2 and. Now remember, move to a 2. So there's a crescendo and forte at the end. You might want to grab your pencil and just write in a 2 on that A in measure 15, the second to last measure. It's a good idea because you may not remember that the fingering is changing, and maybe write all the other crossings that you see there. So Gypsy Dance by Haydn.